guys, Jake with Buckeye Bushcraft back here again with another video. What I want to talk about today is how not to lose your equipment. One thing I've noticed over the years, especially with students at classes, is a lot of times their most important pieces of gear they end up losing, whether it's their compass, their ferro rod, their knife, what have you. It's always the smaller items that they end up losing. So I've always had my students dummy cord the essential items to their body. Takes just a couple of minutes to make a quick dummy cord, and that way it's always on you. If you do drop whatever it is you have in your pocket, it's always on you. Car keys, things like that, I will either have them throw it in their pack or dummy cord it to them. I've had people lose car keys to rental cars before while taking a class, and they had to wait 4 or 5 hours for the rental company to bring them a set of keys. So this is just something that can help prevent that. But I wanted to include something that had a few other little micro lessons that later on lead into other projects during other classes. So I saw a video from I.A. Woodsman. He posted it, I think it was close to 14 years ago, about a paracord lanyard that he did. And it was a braided paracord lanyard, and I really liked that idea, but there were a few things that I wanted to do and add to it to make it a little bit more versatile. So let me move the camera here close. I'll show you what I did, and I'm going to show you how to make it. So what I teach my students is you should always have 4 things in your pocket. You should have your compass in your pocket. You should have some type of pocket knife or knife on your body. You should have a lighter or a ferro rod, or both, and some type of quick snack. Opening this thing up, I'll show you what I've done here. Now, a lot of this, I grabbed a lot of this stuff because it has dummy cords all over it. And you'll see that. So this is an Exotac match cap. It's just got a lanyard on it. I like to wear this around my neck, but this could also be dummy corded to your belt, right? So what I ended up doing was just making a quick braided paracord lanyard for my ferro rod and my striker. So I started here with a 6-ply braid and made an eye splice within that braid, and then it drops down to a 3-ply braid. And then on the end, I simply flipped it over and threw a whip stitch in it. I've got 2 night eyes carabiners on this. The one on this end is a little bit larger because it's going to be hooked to a belt loop. The one on this end is a little smaller because all I have to do is throw in a couple split rings onto my striker and my ferro rod and then clip it in there. But the whole key with this is you never want this stuff to leave your body. A lot of times what happens during a class is students get really excited, they're building their fire, they're getting their stuff done, and they forget to put their ferro rod and their striker back into their pocket. And then they end up losing it. Same thing with their lighter, and same thing with compasses from what I've seen. Now my compass, I normally just put it around my neck. It's got a small whistle and a small light on it, but I also will throw it in the breast pocket of my shirt. But again, what I like to do is have students actually dummy cord this to them. So you can see with this lanyard, on this end, it's a 6-braid eye splice, goes down into a 3 braid. I just did this with 550 cord. 550 cord is a little bit thick. You can use something like a type 1 or type 2 cord, be a little bit thinner. Technora cord would also work really well for this, but for sake of demonstration, I used 550 cord. You can see on one end, I've got the big S-beaner. The other end, I've got the smaller S-beaner, okay? What this allows me to do is, number one, I can hook it right here to my pocket, or my belt loops, excuse me, right? Roll it up, toss it into my pocket. When I go to use it, pull it out, and you need to make sure that your dummy cord is long enough so whenever you go to use it, you don't have to unclip. You can get out here in front of yourself with the ferro rod and strike it, do what you need to do without having to unclip this. All you have to do is just unclip the striker, leave the ferro rod clipped in, hold the ferro rod wherever you want it, and then of course strike it, okay? After you're done with that, you can see I've got a little orange piece on my striker. Just clip it back in. You can roll it up, throw it back in your pocket, and it stays out of the way. But if you are using it and you forget to pick it up or do whatever because you're just excited or whatever, you do drop it, it's still attached to your body, okay? So I tell my students I want them to do this with their lighter, their compass, and their ferro rod, and their pocket knife. The beauty of these Night Eyes clips is you can clip anything to them. This is not that big of a deal. Also with this lanyard is you can take the other end, just clip it in just like this, and then you can turn that into a necklace if you prefer to carry things on your neck versus in your pockets. Just kind of a personal preference thing, but it makes a very comfortable necklace. So if you needed to, you can disassemble this and you essentially have 18 to 20 feet of cordage, because again, this is a 3-ply braid on a probably 7 or 8 foot piece. Obviously as you braid it, it's going to get shorter and shorter. So this piece right here is about, from the end of my fingertip to my neck is about what I measured. That's all the distance that I need in order to pull this thing out and use it. You can clip this into your pack. If you're wearing some type of chest rig, you can clip it into that as well. You could take these carabiners off, run it through itself, and then you have a super strong piece of cordage to use for whatever. If you need to lift up something heavy, you can do that. This is only like probably a 20-minute project if I had to guess, for someone who's never done it before. But this will keep you from losing your stuff while you're in the woods. Can you make just a normal dummy cord with an overhand knot in each end and clip it in? Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. But again, like I said, I wanted something with a few more micro lessons within this. So again, you learn how to do the eye splice within the braid. You learn how to braid, and then you learn how to create a whipping around a piece of cordage with a smaller diameter cordage. So there's a few little extra micro lessons within this. This is why I like this so much. Not only that, I mean, it kind of looks cool too. But so I'm going to move the camera over here and I'm going to show you guys how to get this thing started and how to finish it off. So all I did was just to kind of help hold it, just tied a small piece of paracord around the tree. You want to cut your paracord a little bit longer than you want your lanyard, because again, you're going to lose some length while you're braiding this up. So get your ends as even as you can. So you want to come down a couple inches on your cordage once you get your ends evened up. I'd say a good 3-4 inches, something like that would be good enough for something like this. Come down, and I'm just going to make a little overhand loop just to hold it there, just to get my braid started. Okay, just like that. I'm just going to start braiding this. Just like that. And once I think I got down far enough to actually create a decent little loop, that's probably good enough right there. I'm going to have to hold this right here, untie this portion, bring this portion over top of this, braid it in as well. Bring it up to where it's fairly even, and then you're going to lay these lines on top of your bottom lines, but you need to make sure that they are lined up with the correct line, because if they're not, it's going to look all wonky on you. Lines on the bottom lined up, the line in the middle lined up, and then the lines on the end lined up. After that, that's whenever you can start your 6-ply braid. Okay, so you've got to keep track of this stuff to make sure that you are braiding the correct lines at the right time. And you just start braiding them in 2 at a time. Just like that. And you're going to braid those all the way down. Again, I'm doing this with 550 cord so I can show you guys what it looks like. And you'll lose your braid, or you'll lose your spot here and there with your braid. Just do the best you can to keep track of it. And as you're getting to the end of your braid, what you're going to do is just bend your extra lines back, and then you're just going to switch back over to one braid, or one ply braid, or sorry, 3-ply braid, excuse me. All the way down your line. Just like this. You have to excuse the camera work. I've got a really big lens on this, so it's kind of hard to work. But you can kind of see, it comes from the 6-ply, now we're going back down to the 3-ply, right? And we're just going to do this all the way down the lanyard. Pretty simple stuff. You want to try to keep it tight because you want it to look nice and neat whenever you're finished. You don't want it looking like crap. So I've got it long enough to do this demonstration. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it right here, and then I'm gonna show you guys what we do with the rest of it. And this right here is essentially what we've got, okay? Nice and neat and even. I think I missed my spot. No, actually I didn't. I thought I missed my spot once on this 6-ply braid, but it's good to go. So what we'll do is we will trim these extra lines off, melt them with our lighter, push them so they can't be ripped out at all. This end is the end we're going to throw a whipping. Now, with this end right here in particular, you can re-braid this back into the line. It takes more time and is difficult for somebody who's never done it before. But if you don't want to do that, you can simply just throw a whipping around it and it'll be perfect. Okay, so for our whipping, I'm just holding the end of this line to keep it braided. You could throw a little knot in there if you wanted to. For this whipping, I like to use number 8 bank line, simply because it's small in diameter, it stays out of the way. And if you're using a smaller diameter cordage, it'll still work for it. So I'm not using like number 36 or anything like that, which you definitely could do if you want a beefed up lanyard. So what you're going to do from here is just kind of figure out how big you want this loop on this end. It doesn't need to be huge if you're running a carabiner around it. Go ahead and make that. And I've showed this in past videos. If you go back to the video where I made the candle, I show how to do a whipping in that video, but I'll go over it one more time in this video. Leave yourself, you're going to create a little loop, but leave yourself enough tail so you can grab onto it and pull it through. I'm going to start down here at the bottom of my loop because when I go to pull it, any extra material that I have, I want to go ahead and snip it off and melt it to make it look nice and neat. So make yourself a little loop with your bank line, lay it over the top, just like this, and you're going to wrap up towards the small loop of bank line. I'm sorry if you guys can't see this really well. So wherever you start to wrap, that's how big your loop is going to be. Just keep that in mind. And then get yourself a couple nice tight wraps. And you don't want to tighten this down as hard as you can, because if you do, you'll never be able to pull this bank line through this loop. Make sure it's tight, but there's no need to crank on it. It's not like you're putting together, you know, a candle or, you know, a piece of wood or something like that. You're working with cordage on cordage, so it's easier if you just keep it tight but not super tight. Make sure your lines stay together and are nice and neat. You don't want any lines overlapping any other lines, and this can be difficult if you cannot see very well. If you have any spaces in between these small lines right here, it's going to be a space for this to slip through. So just keep that in mind. Keep your stuff neat. Whenever you're making something like this, you want to keep it as neat as possible, because number one, it'll make you feel better, but it also just looks better if someone else is checking it out and it's done the right way. So you can kind of see, right? We're just looping this around up towards this loop. Take the end of your line, run it through the loop, pull this loop down a little bit to kind of tighten it up, and then just take it and just pull it about halfway down this whipping right here, okay? You don't want to pull it all the way through, because if you do, then you got to restart. All right, so it's about halfway down. Now we could take that, cut that end off, cut that end off, melt this with our lighter. We can cut these extra little ends of this paracord off, melt it with our lighter. cut these off and melt those with our lighter, and then essentially you have 2 loops, loop on each end, to work with. And again, you can make this as long as you want. You can make a really long piece and make like hammock straps out of it. You can do all kinds of different stuff with this type of system. So it's not just applicable to lanyards, it's also applicable to other things. Again, hammock straps, a beefed up piece of cordage. I even saw a guy on a rappelling video make like a tree strap with it to rappel off of. So something kind of cool. And there you go, guys. There's a very simple and easy paracord lanyard project that you can do if you're stuck at the house one weekend or something like that, and you just kind of want to customize your gear a little bit. Again, it has multiple uses. There's a lot of uses. Learning how to splice, how to braid, how to put in a whip stitching, that can go into a multitude of different skills, whether it's making commando ropes, making hammock straps, whatever. Knowing basic weaving techniques and basic rope work is really important whenever it comes to being a woodsman, because you can do so much with it. I thought I would share it. Again, this is not 100% my idea at all. I saw this from IA Woodsman, but he used a couple different types of carabiners. I don't know if he put the split rings on his ferro rod or not. I can't remember, but I figured the Night Eyes beaners were probably the best bet for this. Really cool little project. You can make them with your kids. If you take your kids out in the woods and they're all the time losing stuff, have them make one of these, or teach them how to make one of these, clip their stuff to it, that way they don't lose it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram. I think it's Buckeye_bushcraft. I'll put the link below. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you're really missing out. I post a lot of stuff on Instagram almost daily. Some weeks I get a little busy and I can't post as much, but I'm all the time posting skills, projects, all that stuff. I know not a lot of people like Instagram or have Instagram, but I really don't have a choice. So if you do have Instagram, go give me a follow. I think you'll really like what I have on there. Also, if you're looking for training, we have some training courses coming up in the spring with me, Kenny Dietrich from Ugly Tent, Sean Kelly from Corporal's Corner, then EJ Snyder from Dual Survival and Naked and Afraid. We've got 3 training courses we're doing in the spring. I'll put the link below, uglytent.com, and you can sign up there. So, appreciate you guys for watching, and yeah, next video I put out will probably be a bow drill skills video. So, see you guys next time.